The Mexican Soccer Show Monday Night Football is back. Welcome, everyone. Great show for you guys today. Starting a little late today, 7:30 Pacific Gas.
Like usual.
Great Football is back. Welcome, everyone. Great show for you guys today. Starting a little late today, 7:30 Pacific Gas.
Where's the echo coming from?
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Get some, our producers will give us a little bit. Here we go. All right, welcome to an edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I am Weasel from Mex Nation. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all the embarrassing things that happened to Mexican soccer in the last weekend. A little bit different to go in, but we are here. We have Tom, we have Naib, we have Jason, we have Cesar. It's going to be a great show filled with hopes and promises. If you haven't gotten the answers of what's going to happen to the national team, this is it. I appreciate all of you guys that are following and listening and watching and anchoring to hear for us. Our just hankering. A lot of people have been coming on. When are you guys getting on? When are you guys going to talk about what happened in the embarrassment? So we waited till our set, till Monday. We had a little bit of time to deal with everything on Sunday, and then now we're back on and ready to talk about it. So we're not spazzing out and want to fire everyone or want to keep everyone. So it's going to be a great conversation. Saying hello to Mr. Tom Marshall, who is, Tom, are you in Chicago right now, right?
Yeah, just arrived yesterday, Chicago. Obviously be a bit better for obviously Mexican football if L3 was also here, but good Colombia, Chile, Copa America semi. I mean, it should be pretty exciting.
Definitely exciting. Naib, how's it going, sir? It looks like Houston, if I know your background.
Yeah, we're in Houston. We're gonna go watch the U.S. Argentina, which I didn't see happening when this tournament started, but that's it. U.S. is in the semis. But before, buenas noches to everyone, and a big hug to everyone that is watching over here from Houston. It's been tough 48 hours. Tough.
Definitely. Abrazos para todos. Somos amigos. Mr. Jason Markowitz. Jason, how's it going, sir? Before we get into everything all right? Have a good weekend. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, thank you. Everything's good. I think it's good that we're doing the show Monday and not as you said, not yesterday. We have a little distance, a little perspective, perhaps, from the debacle of Saturday. So, we'll see. A lot to delve into. Great
to see. And Mr. Cesar Hernandez. We didn't have a show on Sunday because of you, actually. We just, Cesar, I don't think you could have handled to talk about, and the next day we pointed out, how are you, especially with me. I'm actually, mirroring the same sentiments. But how's it going, brother?
Doing all right. Still thinking about the result. I decided to take the day off and just, ignore soccer entirely. I just kind of, drove around San Diego aimlessly. just looking for a little bit of a distraction. Every now and then I kept thinking about that result. I mean, I posted up on Twitter. Even my grandma called me, and she complained about the game for about 10 minutes. She just had a surgery. I talked to her about her surgery, but she only wanted to talk about soccer for 10 minutes. It was weird, man.
Did she say, ¿Dónde está Piojo? ¿Por qué no regresa a la selección?
I mean, just the summary is she just said ganas a lot. No tienen ganas.
No le echan huevos. Yeah. What everyone keeps talking about. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and analyze what happened in this embarrassing 7-0 defeat. We're going to just talk about that. There's nothing else that we're going to talk about. Maybe towards the end of the show, just predicted of what's going to happen obviously in the Copa America. To us, the tournament is dead, but there's still soccer going on. So let's go ahead. It's going to be divided into showing what happened, right? And then we're going to obviously talk about what needs to happen. We encourage you to follow along. There's already a lot of people talking on, obviously on the chats, more than we've ever had at the start. Everyone's waiting. Michael Gonzalez, Buelito, the Pancha Villa's Army guys, Eddie, Mariano, saying hi to the Stray Goats, Aaron Serrano. I mean, it is going on. There's a lot of people talking about obviously the 7-0. So if you're not on it, you're listening to us. If you're brand new to the show, if you've just followed us, this is a great great show for your interaction to talk some football in English with all the people out there on YouTube. So definitely get to a desktop, get a laptop, or if you can, on your phone to do that. Before we begin, you obviously are missing. You've seen that we're missing Mr. Johnny Rico. Johnny is back into the hospital. He has a scheduled surgery. Everything is fine. Something that he was struggling a while back with his appendix. Just wishing you, Johnny. I know you're going to be watching this. Hopefully, a safe recovery. We definitely miss you today, but obviously, hope everything goes right. So I know Cesar is going to keep us updated there in San Diego. But Johnny Rico obviously was not going to be able to make it. So hope everything works out with you, Johnny, and we're definitely thinking about you. All right, so go ahead and get started. 7-0, guys. 7-0, something that I know none of us would have thought that would happen, especially on this, in the recent Mexico. In any way, I can honestly say I have never seen a Mexico game where everything fell apart. Everything went completely the opposite of where you wanted to go. Every 50-50 went to Chile. Every pass, everything went completely wrong in the night, from the coaching, from everything. And it looks like after the first half, it just, the players weren't there anymore. So it was definitely, I could say, the worst loss in Mexican history, the most embarrassing loss in a major tournament for sure. And now we get to the question, especially with the FMF, with what's happening, and the fans are upset, as you could see there. Those of you that were there in Santa Clara, the chant was now to the goalie, the ole ole, which we've seen before in the Estadio Azteca, but obviously people are upset. The whole world is looking at this as an embarrassment, and it's definitely a very, very low point in Mexican football as far as in the stage of world soccer. But let's go ahead and talk about what happened, especially from the days to come and the matches to come. Questions that I have is, should we have expected this? Is this a one-off thing? Is this just something that happens once in a while to sports teams? And what were there any signs that was going to happen? Tom, you were obviously been there. You've been the closest to the national team, traveling with the national team, not only in friendlies, but obviously here in this Copa America. We were always talking about Juan Carlos Osorio, but let's just get your initial reactions from you in what I think is definitely an embarrassment and an epic loss against a great team, sure, but in the national stage, and what we've seen. Your take?
Well, yeah, I mean, the irony about the defeat was that it came off the back of Mexico breaking their own record for the longest undefeated streak in the national team's history. So it's like, it's like they came into that game on form. Were the warning signs there? Well, yeah, but obviously against Jamaica, I think that Jamaica created chances, and with better finishing, they might have won that game. But there wasn't any warning sign that it was going to be a 7-0. And all the messages coming out of the camp is that, was that the players are with Osorio. You know what I mean? They like him. They think he's a good manager. They're understanding his methods. So.
Well, what are they going to say, Tom? Everything was working, but they weren't losing. So
yeah, Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying just publicly, but the message you were hearing behind the scenes was that the players were, that they like him, that they can see that he knows a lot about the game, and that they want to kind of learn from him. But yeah, I think obviously to Osorio and to the players and to the federation, that result was one that I think makes everybody just take a step back and think, where are we at here? You know what I mean? Like, where is this the right manager? How many of these players should continue with the national team? I don't think that's an over-exaggeration either. And then obviously from the federation's point of view, how are you managing this now? How are you going to manage this situation? Do you believe in Osorio? And if you don't, then why did you pick him in the first place?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions.
Lots of questions. Naib, sorry. Well, let me just go to Naib really quick. Naib, if you could pick of what happened, why someone goes to you. You're very tactical. You analyze the game. I've sat with you before during games, and I hear from you on what preparations to come in. Why did this happen, Naib?
No, well, I think there's certain aspects that we have to point out. For example, the birth of Rafael Marquez's child Leonardo, I think, plays a role here because he made the trip to the Guadalajara, and I think Marquez have been really important in Osorio's tactical formation. You know, he was basically the main guy there in the midfield and the defense, and not having Marquez ready or 100% fit for this match was something that hurt Mexico.
But
And
now
also,
Marquez gets subbed out, and it's okay. We don't lose by 5 when Marquez is not there.
yeah, I mean, but the thing here is the preparations. You know, it was surprising to see Dueñas in the starting 11, but Osorio saw it. You know, there were reasons behind that. The pressing as well. The pressing from the defenders wasn't that well. You know, against Vidal, Alexis Sanchez, and Eduardo Vargas. They left a lot of spaces, and I think Chile took advantage of those spaces and just saw blood and just went at it. And I think those two, I mean, the fact that Marquez wasn't in the 11 and also the pressing wasn't that good from the defenders.
I just think that one person cannot make that much of a difference.
I mean,
No.
it was obvious that you needed his leadership on the pitch. You know, that was very.
But he's missed games before. It's not like Marcus is not there. We do horrible from it.
No,
He
but
gets
you
subbed
need
out. He's not
You
there.
needed someone to take charge, and you know
So
what
you guys are saying
what are the other ones taking?
7-0. If Marcus would have been there, we would have not. You know, it wouldn't have been a 7-0.
I mean, you could never really truly say
El
like,
hubiera.
whether it would be an entirely different result. I'm just assuming that, you know, once Mexico allowed those first or two goals, that someone like Marquez would have stepped up and perhaps would have motivated the team a little bit.
I agree with you there.
I don't think there would have been a big difference with Marquez on the pitch, but there's something to be said for the fact that the press, Chile's press, was eating Mexico alive, and Mexico could not get the ball forward. And Marquez is someone who can effectively get the ball forward to someone like Chucky or Tecatito storming up the wings to try to break that press down a little bit, which Mexico were just completely unable to do. So, I mean, I don't think he would have made much of a difference, honestly. But, like, there's something to be said. I forget the leadership aspect. Like, that distribution was missing. Dueñas obviously wasn't doing it, and Herrera and Guardado were, frankly, lost. So, it could have helped.
And I think that's what Chile did. You know, obviously, I think we saw two very similar style teams. I mean, both teams who like the ball, were aggressive, you know, like to go forward, you know, quick transitions, and obviously defensively you had question marks. I mean, obviously more for Mexico now than Chile, but, you know, I think Chile, when Mexico pressed, they always had an out ball, you know, so the defender would have the ball, the Mexican forwards would go there, but if your forwards go to press, then you naturally leave spaces behind, and then the Chile defenders were able to pick out Vidal in midfield, or pick out Sanchez, or pick out Push with a longer pass, and I think Mexico didn't have that, so Chile absolutely suffocated them, and I think, you know, a good few of the goals you can kind of prescribe to exactly that. But, you know, I think that, you know, some of the questions now are, you know, Osorio isn't a manager, right? For example, Colombia-Chile tomorrow, I mean on Wednesday, I think Peckerman is going to play like basically three holding midfielders, or three you know, more defensive minded midfielders, because obviously you see Chile and what are the strength? Well, if they hit you on the transition, they kill you, because that's what they do. They're that good, and you know that's the method that Bielsa came in, Sampaoli carried on, and PC is now taking advantage of. But from the Mexican point of view, Osorio is never going to play that way. He's a kind of a coach who's an idealist. You know, he's going to switch around his formation, but he's always going to go, like he said, tú a tú. I mean, that's the way he plays. He goes any team. Now, you translate that, you know, very similar systems, like kind of 4-3-3, you know, the Chile and then Mexico, and you think, you know, Chile's players are better. Chile have got superstar players who, like, you know, Vidal, Sanchez, Claudio Bravo, even though he's not had the best Copa America, they are some of the best players in the world in their positions, and Mexico just don't have those players.
Yeah, but we got to look at some. They didn't. I mean, look at the game that Chile had before, where they played Mexico. They played, you know, if it was a Bolivia who it was a late penalty kick that got him in. It wasn't like, you know, it was a Jamaica before the Copa America. It was us. It looked like, you know, Chile has been playing the same way, and there has to be, you know, you're saying that Juan Carlos Osorio is an idealist and is not going to play that way. But let's look at the facts in that 10 out of the 11 players that played last 2 nights ago played in that 3-3 draw versus Piojo. You know, let's talk about that rotation. Let's talk about the experiments that everyone is talking about. How, you know, having 3 different keepers in 3 different games in the Copa America, which I'm sorry, I've never seen that happen. Did that have something to do with
crazy thing
did that have something to do with Layun being played in 4 different positions in 3 games or 4 games, and now coming back and expected to play in another position where he hasn't done it, and that chemistry that is lost?
I think that definitely comes into play. I mean, you look at, there are only 2 players who played in all 4 matches, which were Hector Herrera and Moreno. I mean, you could technically say it was Tecatito, but he had to come in because Aquino was injured. But the fact that only 2 players played all 4 matches says a lot about his rotation. How, you know, it's, I mean, especially, I mean, if you look at that defense, you know, it might have been difficult for that defense to gain a lot of confidence when you're constantly changing the players who are there, and also changing the formation as well. Yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, my argument to that is that I agree to an extent, you know, and I think Osorio as well, after the game, he kind of said, I made a lot of mistakes, you know, and it's something that, you know, he's admitted. But the counter would be that it's like PC was saying before the game. You look at Mexico's how they play. All right, it alternates between a back 3 and back 4, but the idea remains the same, and also the midfield 3 pretty much stays the same, and the attacking 3 stays the same. I mean, he's not regularly played with 2 central strikers, so, you know, in essence, most of your team stays the same.
But the players don't.
But the players changed. Yeah, to a degree, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's something that he will have to look at. And the other thing is, obviously, Mexico isn't as blessed with depth of player as in Argentina.
Or Chile.
So you've got players coming in. Or Chile to a degree, but
Chile,
I don't think there's a huge difference.
Vidal and Alexi, they can play anywhere in the field. I mean, Alexi was going back and forth. Vidal was going back and forth, but it still started, and the attacks came. Alexi came from the left, you know, and Vidal brought the ball forward. Those guys can play in all 3. The field doesn't necessarily mean they can play. And I think that's where Osorio got it wrong in switching so many people. Oh, I could see him playing. And the fact that we were lucky, and I mean, we all kind of saw it, not playing the greatest against Venezuela, not playing against greatest against Jamaica. People were saying, you know what, we should have either lost that game versus Chile, when we did see it in San Diego. And I feel like the rotations of all those players, you know, maybe that diagram is still there, the 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3, but the players rotating. And a perfect example was Paulo Aguilar. Paulo Aguilar not being able to start in the last 3 games, and all of a sudden he puts him in, not being 100%, and he did horribly.
Yeah, real quick, Wisa, with what you said a couple of minutes ago about Marquez and Mexico being able to pull out results even without Marquez. I think, you know, the 5-3-2 formation that Piojo used a lot is one that you could consider even a Mexican formation, because La Volpe used it a lot, and it's really well known with the players. I mean, for example, you put a 5-3-2 once it was 2-0, maybe in the halftime, you go out with a 5-3-2. The players would have understood that, and I think it would have been an easy switch. I mean, you probably take out Dueñas and you put in Reyes, and then you sort of have some type of order there again, and pull it out. I think that was one of the mistakes there with Osorio. He should have done that tactical mobility there. I mean, I do get that what Tom said, that the 2-2, but he had to have noticed that something was not going right. Chile was dominating in the first half by miles. And then the second point, real quick, is that Chile is coming through a long process since, 2007 with Bielsa. In Mexico, Osorio's process is only 9 months old. This is barely starting, and it's not going to change from one day to the other. And the opponents...
Don't make people sad. People are going to start crying out there.
No, but look, when you see the great streak that he had with the results and the wins and everything, the most complicated games was Uruguay and Chile. And he won one and he lost the other one by a score that will be remembered for ages. But I think it's a style that does fit the Mexican player, but there has to be more time to mesh it in, I think.
I mean, I agree. You know, it's...
But let me make a quick point about Osorio's rotation. you know, it's not. This wasn't a secret. You know what I mean? Everybody knew. You know, I think if the federation make a snap decision now, it speaks so badly about them because this isn't a secret. Everybody, even in MLS, or some, he will come to the table when he was negotiating his contract, saying, "This is my idea. We're going to play major tournaments, and we're going to change positions all the time." So, you know, people will be for it and against it, and obviously most people against it. I've been seeing the Copa America, but at the end of the day, this is how Osorio works. This is his kind of methodology. You know, so I don't
Who
know.
else does that, Tom?
No,
It's
I mean,
innovative, but it didn't work. Like,
I mean,
it hasn't worked for Osorio.
It didn't work for one game. It didn't work for one game. And I think we still.
No, Cesar. I think that's where you're wrong. I think it didn't work for. Look at the way that we got handed against Chile. There was a huge warning that even though we won that game, where Chile completely, didn't even go forward after the second half when they switched out Vidal, when they switched out most of the players, and we brought our players in, but we got completely. Decimated in that San Diego game, even though we won. There's games that we're winning like that, but it hasn't worked, and we haven't been playing that way just because we beat a Canada, just because we beat El Salvador. Against Uruguay, it worked, but at the same time, we look bad. We look bad when they were down a man.
And I guess that's the tough thing because so many of us have criticized Osorio. But, I mean, before the Chile game, a conversation, I feel like a talking point was always, well, if he's still perfect, I guess we have faith in him. If he's making crazy
I think it was more that we couldn't fault him if he didn't lose, right? I think I even said that. I tweeted that. I'm like, well, again, another rotation, but what can we say if he keeps winning?
Yeah,
but also the other thing is, if you look at the team that he sent out to play Chile, that was what most people would have picked. The 4-3-3 with Paul Aguilar, like
True.
on the left. It's like how alright, so Osorio's getting all the blame now, but what about the players? I mean,
of course. Yes.
Herrera, Guardado, these players who have had great season in Europe. Herrera's linked with Napoli, Moreno with Barcelona and all this. It's like, wait up, have we got to take a step back now and think these players aren't as good as they don't have the leadership, they don't have the mettle,
and I think that's where we went.
that we would need them to have.
That's what we said. Everything went horribly wrong, not just with the coaching. Osorio, it's kind of, and Martin wrote a great article that we published. It said, you know what, he kind of answered to the fans. Okay, fine, you don't want all these player rotations. I'm gonna put what everybody wants. And maybe the Federativo said, hey, stop with all these weird experiments. You need to do this. And maybe he did that, and that's where he went wrong, and it all went crazy. But, of course the players have nothing wrong. I haven't seen that bad of a display from players. You're getting beat 3-0 because they're bad. And it was, I think I can think of one player, and that's Raul Jimenez, that looked like he at least didn't want any more goals going in. And I can't even think of a highlight of anyone else having something or getting upset. I mean, every goal was like another one. I mean, park the bus. I mean, Juan Carlos Osorio is still telling you to come out playing with the ball. Screw that. Like, clear it. There were times where it's still down 5-6-0, and in our end, we're still trying to play with it instead of clearing the ball and and saying, forget it, we're not going to go to that style, or playing completely defensive so we don't get embarrassed. I think that the players, even them, were just horrible in the decisions that we're making. We didn't see Guardado being the best that the Elise has. We didn't see Herrera. We didn't see anyone at their quality. And it could have been a psychological thing. You can't just break down after 2-0 at the half. And of course the blame has to be there.
I think some of these players we haven't seen the best of the whole tournament. Like we're talking about Guardado. I mean, arguably Mexico's best player. And at this point in the whole tournament, I mean, he was awful against Uruguay, continued not being great, and he showed up again, just not on his best. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of faults with Osorio, but there's some of these players that at a certain point, like as a player, you just need to step up and do what's right on the field. And there's just so many basic mistakes, like players being left unmarked. There's a man there, and he just gets left behind. Like simple mistakes in the midfield. Just Herrera so many times just coughing up the ball in the midfield. I mean, like there was a lot wrong with the tactics, and there was a lot wrong with the approach. that put some of these players in a tough spot, but they didn't step up. I mean, there was a lot of problems there.
I think another player who didn't step up either, and I would say for most of the tournament, is Moreno. I mean, especially since he played in all 4 matches, and I really didn't think he had that kind of good of a showing. And I think
I don't think he was comfortable in that position.
No, what's the position? That's his position.
That's his normal.
Everyone's talking about his positioning and whatnot. I mean, I think the one thing that they're referencing is when he played a 3-man back line with when Yasser and Araujo were next to him, and they're saying like, oh, he's not comfortable playing in that left backish kind of spot. But like, he's played that spot with PSV before. He's played at left back, and that
but
exact.
Does he play at PSV? That, I mean, it's a different style of.
I know it's a different style, but I mean, I know a bit like you would assume if there would be a player who could adapt, it would be a player who could rise to the occasion. It would be Moreno. Someone who has been a very consistent key player.
Moreno could play that spot in a 5-3-2, or and I just think the way that coming out with the ball, the way that Osorio demands it, and he's obsessed with it. I don't think Moreno could.
And there was a lot of similarities with this 7-0 to the Brazil 1 Germany 7 in the World Cup, because I have a feeling that Mexico was a home team. And like Brazil in that World Cup, Brazil had this anxiety to win the World Cup at home, even though they didn't have the best of squads. With Mexico, I think there came a point in the match that they just got overwhelmed. I mean, they had this pressure added on from the start of the tournament. This is gonna be it because we're playing at home and blah blah blah. You see the 3 goals and you see how you're being outplayed by Chile, and I think everyone just froze. Even Osorio froze, and he wasn't able to give the right instructions from the sidelines. And I think at the end that was really costly. I mean, it's just everyone went against Mexico at one point.
Everything happened. Everything horrible happened in this match. Nothing positive. When the first goal, it was like that was an amazing goal. I even turned back to who I was talking to. There's nothing. Ochoa could have maybe not done that again, but it was just a great counter. I mean, it was an amazing goal, and it felt like Mexico kind of regrouped and all right, let's go forward. I did highlight in my notes. I saw Yasser. I'm like, wow, he's actually doing well. He's defending well. There was a few times where I'm like, he took the ball away, and all right, let's keep doing. Let's see where it goes. That 2-0 happened at halftime, and I felt that was a great interpretation of the game. Mexico was trying to figure out, let's look for some subs. It almost kind of what happened in the first San Diego game, where everything was going. Like we got handled and the half came in, then the substitution came in, and Mexico played a lot better. At 2-0, also Chile kind of stepped back a little bit. Mexico had a little more of a possession. We saw some Tecatito runs. We saw Chucky Lozano go in there, and it looked like things were getting a little bit better. The half came in, and that 3-0 score, that was it. Psychologically, none of the players wanted to be there, and it all went downhill from there. Chucky Lozano, who I think did an amazing job in Uruguay, and that we saw. Question to you, Tom, and now we're going back to Texas again, and should it start, but should Chucky Lozano have started a game against the best players, having only 3-4 games, and especially in the pressure that goes in, this youngster, did Osorio push him way too far? And because he was doing great as coming in as a sub and now as a starter, is that something that you would have changed specifically on tactics-wise?
No. I mean, Mexico's team they put out wasn't that bad. I mean, I would have picked Lozano, no, definitely, and Tecatito on the other wing, Chicharito up front. I mean, I just think. I mean, if you want to explain what happened in that game, then Chile were absolutely brilliant. Mexico had a real off day, and and Chile are the better team with absolutely world quality players that rank as in the very top of the world, and everything came off for them and nothing came off for Mexico. Is that to say there's not blame? Of course there's blame, but that's how Mexico aren't all of a sudden a bad team either. I think we have to stress that as well.
Exactly.
I mean, this was just a disastrous 90 minutes. Like I said, there should be questions asked. There should be really deep questions asked. But I also think, I think it's worth pointing out. I think there's a gap in Mexican football with the national team. I think off the field, they're one of the biggest national team in the world. Shirt sales, average attendance, all that kind of thing. They are one of the grandes. And then on the field, you could argue they've actually never achieved anything of any real worth.
Yeah.
And people say the '99 Confederations Cup. All right, it was played in Mexico. Plus, there was only 8 teams involved. How many of them were elite teams? So yeah, nice one, good cup, all that. But they've never got near a World Cup ever. You know what I mean? They've never got close. And
I guess the
you
times
look
we
what
have
Chile-
come close has been when it's hosted in Mexico as well.
Yeah, I mean
It
the
happens
two
everywhere.
quarterfinals, the 2 quarterfinals. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, hopefully it makes everybody in
We
the
aren't
in
as
the
good as we think
federation.
we were.
No,
Like,
and-
we're
but
not
hopefully
we're
with a
not
bit of
quality team.
Okay, so it brings up a good question.
top 3, top 5. We're
Okay,
not.
so it brings up so were we too did we have way or expectations way too high before the Chile game? Did we somehow think that we were going to easily breeze through to the semifinals?
Not
or the final?
easily.
And we weren't
No,
giving Chile enough credit.
No, but I'm not even talking about one game. What I'm trying to say is that, you've got to level that out. So you've got to get the actual level of play on the field up there. Like the level of the sales and all this and the sponsorship and the US and, let's sell out stadium, NFL stadiums, wicked, yeah, brilliant. But like the level of play now needs to come up, and you have to, once again, it puts into the question the people who run Mexican football, the people running the Liga MX clubs, the federation, the influence of certain media outlets. It puts that for me under the microscope once again. Like, how is Mexico going to go from a good team to an elite team? And I think you look at Chile. Chile is the example, and it's quite ironic that we saw that Chile team, like Naib was saying before. It's been almost 10 years since they imposed an identity on that team. A Chile team that hadn't really ever done anything of real note before Bielsa came in.
Okay.
Bielsa comes in, Sampaolo takes over. It coincides with them producing some world-class players like Sanchez and Vidal, and all of a sudden, they can go and play Argentina, they can play Brazil, they can play Germany and Spain, and they can do it on pretty much equal footing now.
What has Chile done outside the Copa America that they won at home?
Well, they're in the
Well,
semifinals.
I think there's something to be.
No,
They
I was
just
going to
beat
say
Mexico
semifinals. Don't get me wrong.
7-0.
So
They
is
just
the U.S. So is the U.S.
They just won 7-0 against Mexico. So
True.
they're
I'll
doing
give you
something
that.
right.
I'll give you that. We also beat Paraguay in the Copa America in 2007, 6-0 or 6-1 or something like that. We have done this to other teams before in Copa Americas, but let's be honest. It's not like Chile is a world power. I'm sorry. Yes, they're good and they have great players, and they got one Copa America at home. Great. And which many people still think that it was very flawed in the way that they got there too, especially the Uruguay, which they cry about everything anyways. But it's not. We're not talking about Chile that's a World Cup winner, or that they did anything in the last World Cup, because they lost to Brazil, and in the World Cup also. So
Yeah, but I mean, all right. I don't think you can judge it off what they're actually won, because they can't have done. I mean, we're talking about this process now. You can judge it on the 2014 World Cup, which I think they were very good at, and they earned a lot of plaudits, and also 2010, but also the next World Cup as well. I mean, what I'm saying is now in Chilean football at international level, they're a power. You know what I mean? They're going to be a contender for the World Cup.
And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. I'm going back to your comparison, Tom. That is Chile the team that we want to be? Because even then, they still haven't done anything on the international.
No, just to put a little bit in perspective, what Tom is trying to say is, with Chile, with less money, less money. I mean, remember with Bielsa, right, to Chile, they didn't even have a training grounds. The training grounds were all pathetic, and Bielsa came in and he transformed those training grounds. Mexico has a beautiful training ground over there in Mexico City. They got the money to pour it in. We see success in youth teams, but once
it's the
turn 20,
coach.
It doesn't go with the clubs anyway. It doesn't matter what national team.
It's the coach, right?
No, but I think at least Chile has a style with less money. Mexico doesn't even have a style yet. I mean, I think it's barely working on making one.
Yeah, and I think once again, that's something we're going to have to do. We're going to have to be patient with Osorio. We're going to have to be. I mean, it's still too early. I know people right now are calling for him to be fired, which I think is ridiculous. I don't know if we want to talk about
right now. Let's go into that right now. We talk about what happened. Things are getting heated. Tom doesn't like it. He just sent me a text message saying, "Hey man, calm down, buddy. I just got this text from Tom."
All right,
Dude, I get angry texts from Tom all the time, just like ridiculously.
Wait up. I've got a little. 2002, Chile ranked 2002 84 in the world. When Bale came in 2007, 45, and now 5, and the reigning Copa
And
America
you don't
champion.
think it had anything to do with the Alexis and Vidals and?
Of course, yeah, but they integrated the style to adapt to those players. Whereas, I don't think Mexico, all the constant changing of the personnel. I don't think if Chile would have changed not just managers but styles as often as Mexico have done since 2007, they would be nowhere near number 5, even with Alexis Sanchez and Vidal.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Chile is not a. I guess what I'm saying is that let's say we do become Chile, Tom, we still have a huge way to go to be a world power, I think. You know what I mean? Like even if we, I think so. I mean, Chile still hasn't gotten to where like Chile is one of the best ever, or the world power that we want them to be. No, I'm sorry, not ever. I'm sorry, but at least in the international game.
No, I think.
Let's see how they do against Argentina.
But if you, yeah, I mean, we've seen how they did. They lost 2-1.
Exactly.
I mean, but I mean, they can still go and play Argentina, and that they're not going to be too far behind them. What I'm saying is, going to the next World Cup, Chile are within your top 5-6 countries, whereas 10 years ago they were absolutely nowhere near that. So that's why I think it's an example for Mexico. Like it has to be to have an actual project that they've continued and that is focused on playing a certain way, producing a certain style of players, integrating the core of a team around one philosophy. It has to be the way forward instead of Mexico's chopping and changing. And like Naib said, Chile have done it with so much less as well than Mexico have in terms of resources. But I disagree with you. So I think Chile going to the next World Cup, equal to, obviously you've got Germany, Argentina. And then after that, then why not Chile? I mean,
Chile is 4th.
I don't think Chile is scared of anyone.
Chile is 4th in South American qualifiers right now. I honestly don't think that they're going to win this Copa America.
I mean, Venezuela was last, and they did pretty well.
No.
There was doubts about what Chile was doing.
I don't feel like that they're the most amazing team that's playing right now.
There was doubts about whether Chile lost some of their momentum they had under like Bielsa and Sampaoli and like the way they were headed. Because they weren't playing like this, and like after what they did to Mexico, now there's kind of that reemergence. Like, well, maybe they're back because PC like hadn't proved himself with this group. I don't think previously. So I mean, this is something that new, where you could now reconsider. Okay, they have it back because it looks like they have it back, and I think it is. I don't know. I think like you can now.
Well, I mean, look. I mean, look what Germany did as well. After, was it 2006 when Klinsmann came in, changed it all around? I mean, Germany lost in 2001, 5-0 to England. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This result puts a lot of things in perspective for Mexican football, for especially the federation and those making decisions. And actually, they come up with something that is serious. And that if they hired Osorio and they actually believe in him, that they stick with him, and they don't kind of bow to pressure to not do. Maybe they don't believe in him. That wouldn't surprise me either, because we know that they had a lot of trouble, trying to find a coach. So maybe they don't believe in him, and maybe they'll fire him. And
let's talk about that.
From the stuff they said the past couple days, there's nothing that really gives you a lot of confidence that he's going to most definitely be coach. I mean, it seems like. I mean, it's. They said they're going to sit down, they're going to talk, and answer some questions that they have, and they'll have a.
Let's go ahead and we talked a little bit about. Sorry, because I know we only have 15-20 minutes tops. Let's go ahead and talk about what needs to happen. It was frustrating, and as you can see, of everyone just kind of all of us trying to figure out how did this happen and why it happened. We can all agree on that. I don't think this would happen again. And I don't think it's going to happen again. Chile is not 7 times better than Mexico. Everything went horribly that wrong. I mean, we could have seen signs or whatever, but if this happened again, I would be really surprised that Mexico, would lose this badly. And I think it's a huge wake-up call in the system that Osorio has. We shouldn't be spazzing out about, we need to start changing everything, because before Chile, we still had the problems with the Pacto de Caballeros. We still had the problems with everything, and that has to be changed no matter if we're winning or we're losing. now what do we do with this? It can go two ways, right? We can go crazy and start firing everybody. If you're going to fire Osorio, you got to fire somebody who put him there. You got to fire whoever put Decio Maria. We got to start cleaning house everywhere if that's going to happen.
We've tried that firing strategy before.
No. That's the only way that I would say. If you're going to fire Osorio, fire everybody that made the decision all the way up to Osorio, which is not going to happen. Which is why I don't agree with firing Osorio.
Yeah, I mean, Jose Ramon was saying it.
Let's go on and talk about
pretty good. He said get Grupo Pachuca. They seem to be pretty good at organizing stuff.
And they've been wanting to.
There are people within the Mexican game
into the Mexican national team.
Yeah, I mean, there are people in the Mexico game who you respect. I think there's a divide now, and Grupo Pachuca, the owners at Santos. I mean, Iraragorri, I think is brilliant. In terms of his vision, Jesus Martinez. Obviously, I mean, I don't know.
You want Carlos Slim to run the FMF?
Well,
that's not Grupo Pachuca.
It's
So let's
Yeah.
anyone here think that Osorio needs to be fired?
No.
No. Okay. All right. We're all good.
I don't think he needs to be fired, but I'm not going to freak out if he is.
Like give him a yellow card or something?
I mean, like, that was bad. I'm sorry. Like,
no, good. Let's discuss it.
Like, I don't normally like want the position to constantly change and to fire the manager, but like I could understand it in this situation. This was a disaster. I mean, it would have been an embarrassment and disaster. Yeah. And like there are a lot less things a manager can get fired for than what Osorio did in this tournament. I don't know. You're saying like if you believe earlier, like the FMF believes in Osorio, they should stick with him. But in order for the FMF to say that they believe in Osorio, they have to have some sort of a belief system. And what is their belief system? Like what?
Cha-ching.
Yeah, like so. What do they believe in? They believe in victories and the Mexican team looking good. They don't have a setup like is there cohesion and like what this team should look like and how we should train and all these things. Like, is there really this unity? I doubt it. I just think sometimes you have to cut a loss and like say, okay, we're going to get a different manager. I don't necessarily think it's the right move and a great move for the Mexican national team, but I don't think I'd be outraged if Osorio was fired either, because you could certainly understand it.
But then the thing is, all right, so who do we replace him with?
That's
who do we replace? Who would want to take charge of the Mexican national team?
Some other guy like Osorio who you worked with when he was hired?
Let me ask you a different question, guys. Let me ask you a different question. If Bielsa right now said, I will take it, would you fire Osorio?
Well, I think Bielsa's going to coach.
If there was a great replacement right now.
Outside for the team he just committed to today, but.
No, yeah, I know, but I think the reason why we wouldn't fire, and then I'll be honest with you, I don't want Osorio fired just because let's give him time. I feel like this was a one-time thing. If we start seeing he's not doing the same, because here comes the qualifiers where everyone parks the bus, right? And we saw a little bit of what happened in Jamaica when they parked the bus, and it was a little hard for us to win that game. And we're going to see the Chepo pressure already starting. Let's see what happens this year in the friendlies and the two qualifiers and see if anything changes. If he comes back and says, I did this, I screwed up, this is what I want to do next, and let's analyze everything. Let's give him a chance because, again, there is no one right now that I can think of that is ready to take the national team. Tom, you and I have been talking about the Federation and what happened in the last time about looking for someone. And let's be honest, there was no one out there that really got close to the Mexican national team. The whole Bielsa thing was a facade of talks, and he wants control. And that didn't happen at all. I mean, we have Osorio because there was no one.
Yeah, but that's also a symptom of the Mexican game. I mean, Bielsa's extreme as well because he would have changed everything. He would have changed the level of detail that Bielsa goes into before taking a job is basically why he's been out of a job a year. Because the training facilities, he'll watch under 20s games, under 17s games, under 23 games to absolutely get a whole perspective of a club or a national team before he even takes over. I mean, that's what Bielsa does. But if Bielsa was available and wanted it, I'd take him. But I'm a big fan of Bielsa, and I think the difference between Bielsa and Osorio, and I think the weakness Osorio has is that he doesn't have a body of work to back it up. You know what I mean? So when he goes to, Atlético Nacional if you speak to Colombians, the work he did there is amazing, and he's got a lot of respect in Colombia. But that's, with full respect, the Colombian First Division, and we're talking World Cups. You know what I mean? We're talking Copa Americas, and it's a different ballgame. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing I throw out there, I think it was Faitelson brought it up, and I know sometimes it can be, pretty a bit over the top and sensationalistic. But this time he said, this result, it's not any result. This is a result that could mark a generation of players in Mexico. And also the manager. I mean, this could just be Mark Osorio forever. But I think it could go two ways now. It's either can the players now trust Osorio? I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but after this result, when Osorio asked for something, when he asked to go 2-2 against Chile next time, you know what I mean? Will the players kind of look to each other and just be like, you know what, maybe we should not do that?
I feel like you could also make the argument. You can make the argument it could be a turning point for Osorio and the players as well, where they can use a game as momentum and use a game as inspiration moving forward. And maybe I feel like, I mean, I of course no one wants this result to happen. No one wanted that Mexico to fall out during the quarterfinals. But maybe if there is a silver lining, because I feel like sometimes Mexico needs not a 7-0 loss, but just a loss to just kind of give us a realization, that we are a big fish in a very small pond at times in the CONCACAF, and that if we do want to reach those levels, we have to. We just have to. We have to take ourselves. We should give ourselves so much credit before taking on a team like Chile. We have to. And I think that, like I said, I never wanted the 7-0 result to happen, but I feel like Mexico sometimes needs those little reminders, those little games to, especially leading up to the World Cup too, to provide us with a little bit more motivation, to push us to really to achieve and really to push for more.
Take the Copa America away. Mexico would have gone in undefeated against El Salvador and would have gone in undefeated in the qualifiers. And then the games that are happening, obviously, with the Soccer United marketing contract against probably oppositions that are not going to take their full squad anyways. And then next year's, qualifiers again, the heck starting, and maybe Mexico could have gone through maybe a couple of ties or maybe losses here and there, but we're facing Chile again in the Confederations Cup, and here comes that opposition. So I agree with you. This was if the 7-0 was going to happen to really change everything. I wish it would have happened before the Copa America. I don't know if it was a 7-0 before the Copa America, how would we would have still beaten Uruguay? Would the momentum still be there? But it's a huge wake-up call, and if it had to happen, it happened during a time where, all right, we still have 2 years, right, before the World Cup. What needs to happen? What needs to change? From what the news that I'm hearing is very surprising that Memo Cantu, usually, we're back, they're going to analyze everything. Usually this is when they go, all right, we're there with the coach and we got to see everything. But it wouldn't surprise me if he gets fired.
Yeah, just going back to what Jason said, because it can happen that there could be a coaching switch. I think it would be Turco Mohamed. I think he's the one in line. If we're talking from someone from the local league, Turco has said before that.
If Turco's saying right now, I'll take it. Would you change to Turco right now?
Not change, but I keep
Juan Carlos Osorio in the sideline.
No, I keep Osorio. But if it happens like Jason said, that there's a switch like it always happens in Mexico, I think it would be Turco the option, the viable option, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. See that
yeah,
happen.
I mean, it depends what you want from the team, doesn't it? I think Osorio's a risk. He was a risk when he got hired. He's a risk now, even more so. But I stand by the idea that if you hire Turco Mohamed or Tuca back or Thomas Boy, you'll get a nice team, and Mexico will do as they've always done. I mean, I just think they'll be okay. You know what I mean? But I think at some point you've got to take a risk and back someone who I believe, has got more experience, has got just a lot better footballing knowledge, knows other footballing cultures, and in principle can take you to another level. But yeah, is it risky? Yeah, of course it is. But
is Van Goren Eriksson then?
Yeah, I mean that was extreme. That that was poor because his background was completely wrong for the Mexican football.
That's the dilemma, guys. I mean,
A name.
expecting.
But not that much. There's a big difference, we saw. Ericsson made his name in Europe by playing direct football, in Sweden. And I mean, obviously, looking back, it was never going to translate to Mexico. Whereas Osorio's made his name playing very attractive attacking football, which isn't too different from the style of La Volpe and Herrera. So there is a lot, and he speaks Spanish, which is obviously massive.
So the question. Let me just kind of go back and I'll get to it, Jason. So we wouldn't want Juan Carlos Osorio fired, but if the right coach is ready to go right tomorrow, it'll be okay to get him fired.
Well, if Pep Guardiola they suddenly say
he really misses Mexico. He's like, oh man, that time in Dorados, that was amazing. I just got to go back and hang out.
Like Manchester's crap. It's always raining.
What's that? You play most of your games in the U.S.? This is strange.
Love the U.S. I lived in New York.
Say something.
I think there's something to be said for the fact that this is his first time with a national team in a major tournament, and that level of tinkering that he went through with this tournament, that you could say, okay, maybe he learns from that. Maybe moving on, because these players, you could do that with a club team where those players are constantly with each other. You move that lineup so much more than with a national team where those players need to form that cohesion going into a tournament like this. Although, there's the short rest game after game after game, but you still need that cohesion from game to game in order to kind of play as a unit. And you look at what Mexico did versus Chile, and I think what was lacking more than anything was just understanding of where your teammate was going to be and covering for one another. And
yeah.
It was just a complete loss. So I think there's something to be said for the fact, if you're going to stick with Osorio, that and looking at the positive side of it is that he learns from some of the things that happened here and adjusts moving forward.
Yeah, go on, Cesar. Go on.
No, that's an excellent point that Jason just brought up. That this is the first national team that he's in charge of, and it was almost as he was treating that group stage as if it was the middle of a regular season with his tinkering. And my assumption, my hope is that he does learn from this, and it's a tough lesson, that 7-0 loss, but hopefully going forward, he's going to be using 3 different goalkeepers during the group stage of a major tournament. But anyway, Tom, go for it.
I don't think he will change. I think that's part of his. I think changing that would change him. I don't know, we'll see. But I think from what I've seen of him, changing that would change his whole philosophy, and it's just something he's
that's what we're
not going to do.
That's what we're going to see if he puts Layun in the middle again, and he still keeps experimenting with that and fire, after these 2 qualifiers, and we might get by a 1-0. We're not dominating in the way that we did.
Yeah.
Then that's when we can go.
Honestly, I don't think the rotation was why Mexico lost 7-0. I think it's been exaggerated a lot because pretty much all the players played in the positions that they always play. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Ochoa up front or something. Everyone played in the position.
Although during training he did have Ochoa in the midfield.
True. It wasn't just because of that. Everything would have been.
But and all the players know how to play a 4-3-3. Because most Mexican clubs grow up with a 4-3-3. It's not like, I don't know. I just think we're going on about the rotation because it's very different. And there's not many coaches who do it. But in the end, when it comes down to it, and you analyse that Chile game, the rotation was the reason for 7. I'm just not having it. You know what I mean?
No.
Look, but anyway,
I think it's part of it. I think it's part of it. Wait, Tom. And before you say that, Ochoa not being able to play with that defense and communicate with that defense, the game. You need to have that. You need to have that chemistry with the backs that you have.
But come on. How many times has he played with Moreno? How many times has he played with Layun?
How many times has he played with Yasser?
But that wasn't the problem, was it? Yasser didn't play. Well, he came on, but he didn't even announce it. Yeah, Araujo, yeah. But that's one of the. So that's one of the. That's basically Mexico's World Cup backline, apart from, Araujo, and that's normal. But what I'm saying was, I don't think you can attribute many of those goals to.
No. Because look, also before the rotations, there were a lot of wins. Look, I'm not going to compare. Who? No, but look, it's 11 against 11. It's 11 against 11. Though. No, but we always like to belittle, as Mexicans, we always belittle the opponents. We always like belittling Central Americans. We belittle Canada and blah blah blah. You know, I think every opponent is difficult nowadays. You know, and I think winning in San Pedro Sula wasn't easy, and he did it. When the rotations were happening, no one was complaining about the rotations because they were winning.
I was complaining.
That's not true.
He did a lot. And now we're making a big fuss of it.
You guys were all like, his mad scientist, it's working. From the very beginning, I hate to say it, I did not want Osorio, and it's still, people kill me on Twitter, look at this guy, and I'm like, yeah, it's still right, he's not doing it. But sure, it would not happen again. Right, if we played this Chile game and somehow every rebota didn't go to him or whatever, I thought the 2-0 at halftime, was it 2-0 at halftime? Now I'm forgetting, right? It was.
Yeah.
The 2-0 at halftime was justified. If it was a horrible, like, we would have been 5-6-0 at halftime. No, it was 2-0 at halftime. Everything after that, I can't even look at it. You know, besides the fact that everything went wrong. But at 2-0, I think it was justifiable. I think Chile was 2 times better than us.
So right? It should have only been 4-0, like on pace for 4-0.
No, but you know that's where Osorio goes. Okay, crap. You know we're getting handed to us this way. Let's make these new changes. Getting Gullit in there, to do something about it. Raul, I guess, did a little bit more, but it's like he didn't even switch on that. It's like he kept it going. Finally, I think with his third sub, which was
at half time he took a risk. He took a massive risk.
Yeah.
But he had to do it. You're in tournament football, and it completely backfired. But
that's right.
I don't think we blame him for. I think maybe he got his starting lineup wrong, but I don't know. I mean, because he was playing with Herrera, Guardado, and Gullit as like the midfield 3, and obviously chasing the game. They were 2-0 down. They needed a goal, and it completely backfired. But again, a player the quality of Herrera has to know when to. Not be messing around with it. You know what I mean? When Chile's high press. Everybody knows about Chile's high press. But just a quick point about moving forward. I think the next squad, if Osorio's still in charge, is going to be fascinating. Because it's going to be post-Olympics. And, Osorio has had kind of his hands tied until now. Because, we've had these 2 kind of processes going on. The national team for the Copa America and the under-20s for the Olympics. Now, let's see what Osorio does with those younger players, because if he wants to implement his philosophy and his ideas, then obviously younger players are easier to mold and easier to kind of communicate through than the established Mexican players that have been through so many managers and have their own more set in the ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing if Gutierrez, Pizarro, Carlos Salcedo, even Cesar Montes, even though he's young, those kind of players. Let's see where they're going to go. You know what I mean? Are they going to suddenly step up? I mean, are they ready yet? We don't know, but I think it would be exciting to see what Osorio can do with somebody who's like kind of fresh. And the other one, I mean, I'll throw it out to you guys here before we head off. But are some of these players now, are their careers over? I mean, the national team players. I mean, are some of them, considering there's a new generation coming up after the Olympics, I mean, are some of these careers, I mean, I don't know.
No, we have to, I mean, the thing is, I mean, you're talking about this new generation of players. One player that we have to stop relying on is Rafa Marquez.
Yes, please.
We need to look forward. Rafa, it'd be genuinely really sad if we were still relying on Rafa Marquez in the next World Cup. That's what we said in the last World Cup. That's, I mean, like, it's crazy to think about that we've had to rely on him for so long, but we can't be relying on Rafa. We need to be moving forward. Who the next player is, I don't know, but
But Rafa's still competitive. He's still doing his job.
Yeah, but if we're going to if we're going to prepare for the next World Cup, we have. I mean, Rafa, for his own respect for the Mexican national team, I think he has to recognize he's going to have to step down. He can't be playing this role if he knows. I mean, he's not going to be playing the next World Cup. It's just. I mean, maybe he will. I have no idea.
Hey, is if he keeps playing at this level until the next World Cup, is he going to go to the World Cup? Yes.
No, but the thing with Rafa, because I did mention Rafa as part of the fact that it's because Osorio had been working a lot with Marquez involved, and I do, in a certain way, I do like the fact that he didn't use them in that game, because I think it was sort of a period to move on. He didn't use them at all. He could have put them in the second half, but he didn't, and now this new era could start now finally. Not using Marquez, because I do believe that, like Cesar said, that it is we're relying a lot on him, but we're relying a lot on him because he still doesn't say, I want to retire from the national team. The moment that happens, I think that's when El Tri can start putting in the Montes, and all of these players that Tom mentioned, Guti, Pizarro, but he hasn't said it yet, and that's why he's still involved. But I do agree with Cesar that has to, that has to be Rafa's decision. He has to say it straightforward that he doesn't want to play for the 3 anymore.
For me, the positives moving forward are that I think we could look at Raul as someone that his place as a starter for El Tri needs to seriously be considered, and could be something that could be more legitimate moving forward. And I think that's overdue for him.
Yeah,
and the way
but Jason, he has to start with Benfica first. I mean, he's not playing. It's not the best league in the world. I mean, Benfica are a good side, but I mean, come on. I mean, we've got to look at these Mexican players in Europe, and I don't know. I don't want to use the Chile comparison again, but playing for Bayern Munich, Barcelona.
I know, Tom. He's been doing. I mean, but when I see Raul Jimenez playing for the national team, I feel like he's one of those players who is always giving his all. He's always stepping up, regardless of whether he is a starter or not in Benfica. I think I've been very happy with Raul Jimenez, and in the last match especially too, where he looked like he was playing harder than any other player on the pitch.
No, I agree. I don't disagree. I'm just saying, as a group, it's like they've got to step up as well now. You know what I mean? It's not just like the younger players coming through, but it's those players like Raul Jimenez not taking that next step. And part of that for Raul and other players out there is to like be playing regularly. For your teams.
All right, so conclusions from our discussions today. Everything's going to be all right. I honestly don't feel that things are going to go downhill. We're still going to make it to the World Cup. Hopefully, and we'll be optimistic about this. They're going to analyze everything. I don't see a coach's change unless there is someone ready to go, which I don't think that's going to happen because I think there's no way that the Federativos were like, well, in case he does bad, we have somebody, because they're even off-track 364 days we hadn't lost. And I think everything's going all right. Let's see how we do against Chile. So I feel like give Juan Carlos Osorio, if I was a manager and this was a company and this was the way that they run it, let's see if this is a reoccurring thing and see how that goes after the qualifiers, after this stage of qualifiers, and towards the end, let's go back and assess, is this something that they want to do? Mexico's going to be fine. This was a rare occurrence. It happens to many teams. England, Tom, what's the worst English loss that you remember that it was just like an embarrassment?
So many of them.
No, I don't know. I can't think.
Oh, there you go. No, that's a great answer. It's not like it happens a long time ago, and people are like, "Oh, we're never gonna forget this." We haven't forgotten the 2002, but it doesn't define us what happened in 2002. We haven't forgot what happened, in Costa Rica when they were able to win in the Azteca, but that doesn't define the way Mexican football is. Like everyone is saying, and the amarillistas out there in the journalism world are like, this is, everyone's gonna remember. People are gonna forget, right? Brazil obviously hasn't forgotten because that was the worst probably thing that could happen to a national team in their own World Cup. But they're gonna keep going, and we're gonna keep going. Everything's gonna be fine.
It's like a motivational speech.
It is. I want to make sure.
Yeah, it helps that we're in CONCACAF, so of course everything's gonna be fine.
Again, if we're expecting,
we're gonna be fine until 2017.
If we're level of expectation of Mexico winning a World Cup, I'm sorry to say that only very few countries have won the World Cup. It's really hard to win the World Cup. We have great players that are playing in great leagues, and we're heading towards the right direction. Let's see where it goes. This is a great way for us to examine everything, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I'm sorry.
I'll agree with you. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. Don't kill yourselves.
I'm a bit more pessimistic, me. I think that, I don't know, I just think this result, even if Osorio stays now, the knives are out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The knives are out.
I wrote something when Osorio got it. I said, this guy's not going to make it to the World Cup.
Well,
everyone's like, wow.
It was hired he was ever going to, no matter what happened.
Yeah, I tell you what. Just going back to what Jason was saying about whether Osorio should stay or not. If there's a time to bring in a new manager for Mexico, it's now. If you look at the schedule between now and Russia, it's like you've got 2 games that don't matter really because Mexico are already in the hex. Then you've got a couple of the hexagonal games, and then you close out 2016. There's not much going on, and then you've got the run up to 2017. I don't know. I mean, you'd have a year before you face a big important team.
And we could at least have another manager there. He could be fired, and then we'll have at least another one there. We could fit in, I feel like we could fit in at least like 3 or 4 managers.
The reason why I don't want another manager change is because there's no one to manage us. There isn't anyone out there that I think.
Osorio was no one. Like
I know. Believe me, I was upset. I said, "Why is this guy come in? What has he done?" And I got killed for it. Tell me something that he's done. I'm like, all right, fine, we're here. Let's accept it. He's winning. He's bringing something great. There is no one out there. And again, I go with you, Tom. No se acercaron con nadie. The FMF didn't have someone like a candidate of 4 people that they picked, right? Poor Vucetich is still like, I can do it, right? It's not going to work. Unless Mohamed is ready to go, unless another one of these great team, meetings and like a Piojo came in and stuff like that's going to happen, which I don't think is going to happen. But
hey, Piojo said recently he'd be willing to do it.
It'd be worse off if we fire someone.
Yeah, shocker.
It'll be worse off if we fire someone right now because there's really no one else. So let's stick with Osorio, see how he does, and just go
Imagine if Piojo came back, man.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
I'm down for Piojo, man.
No, but he's such a troll. He's such a troll. Like going around with Univision, just like criticizing Osorio every morning. It's like, what are you doing, man? The last minute, I don't know. I don't think
that happens.
He should be in Tijuana at the preseason.
Yeah, man. That's what I was just thinking too. Is like, could you imagine if you're in Tijuana and you're a fan of the team and you hear Piojo like, oh yeah, I'd go to the national team again. It's like, dude, you just showed up. You just showed up like 7 months ago.
Jolie, if you guys know Jolie, he said something really funny. It should be Piojo should go to the national team. Juan Calio could do all the experiments he wants in Cholos.
Hey man, they might get relegated.
They might just switch ups. All right. We went a little bit over.
Right.
It's all right. I know, Tom, you got to go. Tom, go ahead and say goodbye. We'll finish off. I know everyone's got to go, so let's just finish it off right now. Thanks, guys. We had a record number of live viewers. I appreciate all of your comments. I think the chat's going crazy. Some people, have agreed with me. Some people think, did I even watch the game? Tom, apparently, they think maybe you've been drinking a little bit.
I'm the only one who's been drinking.
It's fun, right? And we appreciate all of it. Wiso is ready to take the flag and jump off a play. Like it's fun. If you haven't been in the chat, come join us. It's a sport, guys, right? It hurts, but it's gonna be all right. We're gonna be okay. There's much more bigger problems in the world than Mexico losing 7-0. But again, it shouldn't. It is an embarrassing moment, and we're gonna go forward. Let's see what happens, and especially keep with the news. Nothing is off the table with the FMF. I could see him tomorrow. We met, and Osorio handed in his resignation because he feels like he needs to have player rotations all the time, or something. And here we go again. Or they're gonna give him some time until the very last moment. That just like Chepo. So get ready for whatever happens. But I wouldn't take any road to be a huge surprise. Cesar, last words.
Let's see if Hector Herrera goes to Napoli. Apparently that's really close. Yeah, so keep an eye on that. And other than that, I'm going to be I'm still healing my wounds after that Mexico.
Your player ratings were from 0 to 5, right?
0 to 10.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Those are the worst player grades I've ever given for Mexico.
Did anybody get a 0?
I didn't get. Actually, that's what everyone's complaining about. But it's player ratings. They're either too high.
Amazing, they get 10. They don't get a 10. When they're horrible, they don't get 0.
They're either too high or too low for everyone.
You get 1 for just walking on the field.
It's like the point that you get on your SATs for having your name. So Rafa Marquez got a 0 because.
So if you wanna continue to disagree with me, just go on ESPN and check out my player grades and
you also
give me a harsh criticism on the Facebook chat.
I can't wait till the Ask Cesar column that's coming up on Friday. I'm sure.
That'll be great. I'm looking forward to
that. Really quick, who wins this Copa America?
I don't care.
Correct answer.
Argentina, Colombia, Chile, United States.
No.
All right, let's hear from you guys. What are your predictions for the final?
I say Argentina. It's the easy answer, but I think it's the most rational. I would say Argentina right now.
Argentina, Chile, Argentina, Colombia.
I would say Argentina Anyway, just for fun, I'm gonna say Chile, just because they're gonna work off the momentum that they had, and maybe had a little boost in self-esteem from the last match.
Naive.
A little boost.
Just a little bit. Just a little
I
bit.
say Argentina, Chile, and again, for the second year in a row, actually. You know?
Jason, anyone else?
I'll take a flyer. I'll take a flyer in Colombia.
I do too. I don't think Chile is amazing like everyone thinks they are.
Well, no Vidal in the semifinal. That's going to hurt a little bit, and
I know Pizzi.
I think it would be a wake up call. That Chile performance against Mexico is a wake up call for Colombia as well. So I could see them stepping up and sneaking out a victory, and I think they could give Argentina a game too. So I don't know. I'd take a flyer in Colombia to win it all.
Whoa, there we go.
All right, well, I don't know that. I think Argentina will win it all, but I don't think Chile is gonna.
Went too far. I went too far.
I just hope the U.S. loses 8-0 tomorrow. That's all I'm hoping for.
Yes.
8-0. Give me a good night. Let's make it double digits. Let's make it 11, 12.
Let's
just keep it, rack 'em up.
let's all agree.
Hey, Trump's coming after you.
Dude, he's already been
United
after me,
States
man.
in the semifinal will have 2 more games. Be careful, United States, saying that be careful, U.S. fans, because you do have Chile. I mean, you will have the loser of the semifinal, and you'll have Colombia. So that's 2 games that you can get. But again, I can see the United States winning this because they're the luckiest team in the planet. So that's how there's a percentage that everything goes wrong, threefold or whatever it is. But I'm sticking with I feel like Chile's not going to make it, and I think it's going to be Colombia-Argentina final, and then Chile, the United States third place match. We'll see what happens, guys. Thanks for joining. I know it was late. I know we went a little bit over. Tom, I know that you're traveling, man. Thank you so much for. It's really late in the East. Jason, you're used to this, so no worries.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Naib, when do you go back to Mexico?
Next week. I should.
All right, you're checking out some of the games. Cesar, you're staying put in San Diego, guys.
Yep.
Thanks all for the follows. Thanks you for the subscribing. Thanks you for listening to us and sharing this. Really appreciate all of. I just been reading one of the messages. We so shut the F up.
It's not gonna be the title of the show.
We so shut the F up. That's how it is, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next edition of the Mexican Soccer Show, and we appreciate everything that all the support. We'll talk to you guys on the next show.